The style of the way you played just had a natural sense of theatre.
He's a showman, he's a personality.
Life's all about the stage that you're on.
The pace, the power of Martin Chariots Offiah.
For me, it is about creating moments. Careers can be forgotten, but moments last forever.
The rise of you and the rapid rise.
And a passion for scoring tries, and I think I just figured it out.
Offiah's there for his 10th try.
Everywhere you went, they're saying, what a waste of money. 20,000 people abusing you, and I just thought to myself, God, if I can score a try today, I'm going to really affect these people's day.
And there's his hat-trick.
I'm watching this on the treatment bed, thinking if only I was out there.
Offiah gets number 4 with this break from witness. Here is the perfect athlete in motion.
For you to now have your own place in history, it's wild.
Mr. Showman himself.
That's what people like. They like a good story.
Martin Chariots, one of the finest players we've ever seen. So much grace and speed. And it's an extraordinary story of this young Cockney boy, London-born, Nigerian heritage, who goes on to conquer rugby league on both sides of the globe.
From humble beginnings, they always say that's, you know, the classic story, isn't it? You know, you come from nothing. I always say to my son, it's all right for you. You know, you've got a dad who's been there, done that, who can help and guide you. Whereas for me, I had to figure it all out and, you know, make my own sort of path. Originally, I was just a kid who wasn't particularly academic, the youngest of 3. Was really interested in football. At the age of 11, my parents sent me to a boarding school, which didn't have a football team, only had a rugby team, a rugby union, that being, and took to it like a duck to water.
This is Offiah. This is the first chance we've seen of him. And the speed of the man getting past Gerald Caudle, the speedster from Rosslyn Park.
And then, just out the blue, a phone call from a guy called Doug Lawton, who was coach of Widnes. The rest, I say, is history.
So this schoolboy rugby and cricket prodigy eventually finds his way to rugby league. The rise of you and the rapid rise in a game that was probably pretty foreign, because rugby and rugby league, they share similarities, but they're not the same.
My game was just naturally suited to it.
Nobody's going to stop this man. The Offiah goes down.
Back in the, you know, in the old days, it wasn't like the modern game, I suppose, where, you know, a lot of wingers and fullbacks are doing hit-ups. I was there simply to score tries.
And Offiah's on the left, and Offiah is away. And he'll be chased all the way. But surely no one can stop Martin Chariots. Try number 3.
I loved scoring tries. I had a passion for scoring tries, and I think I just figured it out. It took me 3 games. I think I played 2 games for Widnes, and by the 3rd game, I think we were playing a team called Runcorn in the Lancashire Cup, and Doug Lawton came up to me and gave me a bit of a pat and say, Martin, I can't really buy a try-scoring winger that doesn't score any tries. I thought, it's only my 3rd game. But it seemed to work, because I think I went on to break the First Division record of scoring in 15 consecutive games.
Offiah going in for a try. That breaks the deadlock.
What was Widnes like for you and really the north of England in the 80s?
For a black guy, travelling up from sort of the south of England to the north to play rugby league was, yeah, a massive culture shock. I didn't know anything about the sport of rugby league, and as I say, I just became a student of it. I used to get the Micron videos, VHS videos, and watch the Australian competition. And I remember, like, the first time I said to someone, who's the best rugby player in the world? And they said, oh, some guy from Australia called Wally.
Lewis, they hang off Lewis is going to score! Oh, Lewis has done it so easily!
Where I came from in London, you know, a Wally was not a nice term to call somebody. So I couldn't believe that the best player in the world was called Wally.
This man Offiah, highly tipped for a place in Mal Riley's Great Britain squad, which is due to be announced tomorrow.
But yeah, it was a fantastic first season, the top try scorer, becoming an international player as well, and going to tour New Zealand.
Offiah. Oh, Offiah, he's half a chance! He's away! Now then, can we see one of the great tries? Oh, he's beaten Mercer, all ends up! That's a try and a half! He's a showman, he's a personality!
When Dougie signed me, he said to me, you're going to become one of the greats this game. And I just thought he was just saying whatever, just to get me to sign for them. You know, I didn't believe him.
But not everyone would have been a huge fan. What about some of those hard-headed Aussies?
I think my 3rd game was against Warrington. I think they had Les Davison, I think they had Blocker Roach. And Les Boyd, I think I scored 4 tries that night.
Oh, good ball to Offiah. He's made something himself. He's going himself. He's in.
And
they would have been furious.
I remember coming back, celebrated, and as David said, he was just literally abusing me, telling me how he's going to effing do this and that. And I was like, Jesus Christ, who is this guy? Going up to places like the Boulevard, the old Boulevard in Hull, and then I just standing there, and you've just got, 20,000 people abusing you. And it was like being in a movie. I just thought to myself, God, if I can score a try today, I'm going to really affect these people's day. Because I'd come from rugby union where, even the opposition supporters would clap me, go, jolly good try. To come to this, but...
League's a little different.
Yeah, but I was always aware of that, the crowd and how I could affect them, and, scoring a length of field try got me excited. So if it gets me excited, then, it's going to get other people excited in the crowd and people watching on TV.
Finally. Oh, to a fire! Now then! Oh, just look at this. Mercer has no chance. Here is the perfect athlete in motion. Mr. Showman himself.
The style of the way you played just had a natural sense of theatre. 42 tries in your first season, which is just astounding, and then rewarded with a man of steel.
One man has filled the bill this season in great style. Debutant try scorer, sensational Martin Chariots.
Is it something now you look back at and you're like, wow?
I do go, wow, but then I also go, it teaches you about life. It's like, that wasn't even my best season.
It's hard to imagine that this time last year he was playing for Rosslyn Park in London. Now he's preparing to tour Australia as a Rugby League British Lion, after one of the most spectacular opening seasons the game has known. I
felt that my second season was far, far better. Scored arguably one of the greatest tries I've scored for Widnes against Wigan.
Now what can Offiah do this time? Down the middle he goes. Can they stop Offiah? Martin Offiah is going to score here and let the fullback Hampson can get it. Hampson's hat-trick! What a super try! The whole of Widnes goes absolutely potty.
Widnes fans always remind me of that, because obviously everyone knows me as a Wigan player, but if I ever bump into a Widnes fan, they'll say, the best try you ever scored was for Widnes against Wigan.
It was a try that had everything. Sidesteps, handoffs, awareness, determination, elusiveness, blistering pace, of course, and bravado, summed up in one word: class. Little wonder that minutes later, when the championship had been clinched, Widnes' worshippers cheered their newest god from the field. It was a day of personal triumph and collective success, a day of never-to-be-forgotten celebration.
Because you had that incredible year, of course, selection, you go on this Lions tour, the Ashes series in '88. You'd already been told about this guy called Wally Lewis. What was your first impressions of that tour?
I know that England invented the sport of rugby league, but we all know going to play in Australia is the biggest test.
It might not be over! That is good night under the post! We are going to have a dramatic 4.5 minutes left in the series.
That was one of my first things I wanted to do, was to play in Australia and have an Aussie commentator like Graham Hughes call the game. And even today, my favourite commentary has got to be when I played for St George in '91, when Graham Hughes called me a freak.
Walford's on the inside of Coyne. He goes out to Offiah. Was he behind him? Yes, says Annesley. He's a freak. This freak from Widnes.
Even to this day, it gets me. When I go and watch that, when he says, this freak all the way from Widnes, I was just like, forget the money, forget everything, because when you're dead and gone, your legacy is all that's going to be left.
The reception here will be enormous. Heroes at Wembley, they will become something of godlike if they can win the Ashes at Old Trafford.
Now, there's one game against Australia that still haunts you. It's the 1990 second test at Old Trafford.
I was telling Mal the story about how he fell on my knee.
As we see an injury to Offiah in a terrible lot of pain.
And a guy called Carl Gibson went on the wing, and then Ricky makes that break and they score that try, and I'm watching this on the treatment bed in the changing room at Old Trafford, thinking if only I was out there, we would have won the Ashes.
Because the Aussies remember that passage very differently. It was like the series was on the line, and then Ricky finds Mal, and it becomes this famous try.
I know.
But you're in the injury room.
I'm in the injury room watching it on the TV, thinking we've won the Ashes, because I'm thinking that was the thing. I'm thinking we've won the Ashes, and then, as you can remember, they go down the right-hand side, which is the left wing, which is my position.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, if I'm on there, there's no way They're getting all the way back without me intercepting that.
I'm now replaying that passage and imagining you swooping
Yeah.
on an intercept, and it completely changes the narrative.
But there's no way Ricky Stuart's going to get back there. People say, let it go. You've scored 501 tries, but you still think of...
And you think about that one.
You think about the times that they got away.
One of the most famous tries in Test match football. Ricky Stuart.
There's Meninga's shoulder work that came in.
In '88, a very Aussie pastime.
Yeah.
We have a match race.
Yeah.
This is work out who's the fastest man in rugby league. So you've got John Chicka Ferguson,
Yeah.
Dale Shearer, at Wentworth Park, which is a greyhound. It still is used for a greyhound track.
Yeah. But no, you're the first Australian that's ever talked to me about that race.
Tell me.
No one ever mentions that race because
Because of the other one. Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, I always say to people, hey, you know, I beat Dale Shearer, and they're like, no, I didn't know that. Never heard of that. No.
Then the famous one, which everyone probably remembers,
Yeah.
in '92, the fastest man in rugby league.
Yeah.
This time it's against
Odin Ryan.
Odin Ryan came out the better of the two. He leads 2 metres past the 25 and still in front of metre at the halfway. Offiah struggling to get to him. Odin Ryan, he's going to create a ball over.
Now, you have a very different account. Lee has his own account of what happened. So how did it go down in your mind?
Yeah, in my eyes, you know, yeah, he got the jump on me, and then as I was trying to come back at him, I think it was because there was no lanes, you know what I mean? So it was just like a free-for-all. So I think he smartly, you know, tried to come across me. But I just said that I lost that race fair and square, and, you know, there was lots of talk about I blew the race because...
Because your teammates jumped on Lee?
Yeah.
Right.
But if they didn't tell me about it.
Today, the Sydney Football Stadium has a touch of the old country about it. 4 of Britain's finest line up for their Sydney clubs in a game that could be the turning point for the Winfield Cup battlers' western suburbs and their more affluent but greatly disappointing rivals from easts. Do the Englishmen hold the 89 fortunes for both clubs in the palms of their hands? And what of Martin Chariots? We know he can run. We've seen him score a swag of tries. But the biggest question, will he do this in front of a Sydney crowd?
1989 delivers an opportunity for you to come to Australia and take up a contract with Eastern Suburbs. What was your impression of living this Aussie life?
Nick Politis, I think it was, yeah. He's got me out there and famously wore my white boots, which someone told me sort of after was a bit of a no-no. Is it because of someone like Langlands or something? It's meant to be bad luck or something. But I wore white boots and scored with my first touch.
Well, here's a chance for him. He's got a try in his first game. He's picked up over 100 in 2 seasons. Hallelujah, says Offiah. First real touch from open play.
And we beat West in my first game at Sydney Football Stadium. I went to play, again back in Australia, went to play for St George with Brian Smith.
With 4 losses on the trot, the Dragons are banking on Martin Chariots, a clubmate of Jonathan Davies at Witness.
The game over here is definitely, you know, as I see it, you know, very precise. Players go out there with, you know, precise jobs to do. Well, I think that English football maybe, you know, not as intense, but a little bit more creative. Which was a bit of a strange one because I thought I was going back to East because I had such a good time there, but then I'd agreed a contract, and for some reason, even to this day, I don't know why, but they ripped up my contract. So I'd agreed a contract to go back to East, and then they ripped it up. Brian Smith said, come play for St George.
Martin Chariots, speed machine, has already picked up 5 tries for the St George side since linking up with the famous red and white.
Brian Smith, who was, before that, was the whole coach and used to do the colour commentary for ITV, and always used to give me a hard time because I used to celebrate after tries, and you say, that's not on, it was bad.
Too flashy.
Too flashy,
Yeah.
and this and that, and then he signs me for St George, so...
Well, Martin's obviously proven himself over the past 4 or 5 seasons of playing rugby league as a sensational try scorer, and we think it's good business for him to come and play for us.
Round the back, beautiful hands of fire to the corner. Does he get another one? He got it down. He can really finish this man.
I only had a short career in Australia. I think I had 1/2 season playing for East, 1/2 season playing for St George.
Fires inside, good night. Martin Chariots will go and join them in row A.
And then when I went back to East in '93, I only played 1 game because I was playing against Penrith and dislocated my shoulder.
But round 9 witnessed a disastrous return to the Winfield Cup by fragile Englishman Martin Chariots. He lasted just 55 minutes with the Roosters.
But still, to this day, you know, Australian fans come up to me and talk about the times that I played there. You'd think I'd played there
We love you still. You made such an impact.
It's crazy, I know.
What about your nickname, Chariots?
Oh, that's just part and parcel of the whole game. I think it just rhymes with a fire, really.
Journalistic licence, Martin. Chariots will stick, I think.
I think so, yeah.
The nickname, Chariots Offiah, you weren't particularly comfortable with it to begin with?
No, and it's funny, in England, all the commentators used to call me Offiah, but when I was in Australia, they always called me Martin Offiah.
Campbell, Cook, Sherlock, Martin Offiah from Witness.
Go and look at all the commentators. They never called me Offiah. It was always Martin Offiah.
This is Offiah. Now we'll see his pace. Away he goes. He beats Gary Jack. He's going to score.
My name is Offiah, but Offiah was this kind of stage name, just I think because of the whole Chariots Offiah thing, and then playing rugby union as well, and this whole Swing Low song. And first time it was ever sung was in the Middlesex Sevens when I was playing the Middlesex Sevens.
Must be a curious experience for the players to be thumping away at each other out there with those great waves of song echoing all around this great ground.
So should we call you Offiah?
I don't know, because then, it's funny, on my wedding day, I got married in the registry office, and they said, do you Martin Offiah? And my wife said, hang on a minute. She stopped the ceremony and goes, who's Martin Offiah? I'm marrying Martin Offiah.
I'll be Mrs. Offiah, please.
Because even in England, if I, try and get a table at a restaurant and I ring up and go, hi, it's, and they say, who's it for? And I go, it's Martin Offiah. They'll say, who? I go, it's Martin Offiah. They go, oh, why didn't you just say so?
This way. Suddenly we're free. So 92, and you're one of the brightest, most marketable stars in the game, and Wigan come offering this world record deal. Everywhere you went, the opposition fans were saying, what a waste of money. So there was a lot of pressure on for us to, and I'd never played I played at Wembley before, but I'd never played in the Challenge Cup final, so Wigan have signed me to do this. I scored 5 tries in the semi-final against Bradford. And then scored 2 tries in the final against Castleford.
Positioned again, the kick, the chase, for a fire, just look at this man go, he's got it! Yes, he is! He got the try!
Won the Lance Todd, and it was, at the end of that season, it was just weight off my shoulders to actually, not be a waste of money. The move to Wigan, do you feel like that's where you really was the making of you in many ways? Life's all about the stage that you're on. In my eyes and in the eyes of a lot of English fans and Wigan supporters, Wigan are the greatest rugby league team in the history. You talk about creating legacy in history, and your stats, it's amazing. Like, it's so flush. It's an embarrassment of riches. I think I've scored 3 or more tries on 51 occasions in my career. And then you get to the game where it's 10 and you think, hang on, what?
Offiah goes for the line, and he's into the corner. And they get the gap out, onto Offiah, Offiah with a run. He has support inside, he's going to go on his own. He's streaking for the line, and he kicks over the line.
Yeah, it was a great day, a sunny day, one I remember fondly.
Offiah over again. He's piling them up this afternoon.
I've got to thank G Miles for some of those, because he was such a great player. Gino was coming, obviously, towards the end of his career, and so he wasn't that keen on running, Gino. And with me outside, and
just feeding you.
Come on.
G Miles, sleight of hand out to Offiah. Offiah gets it out. Wigan whip it inside, and it's Offiah. Offiah's there for his 10th try.
I think I scored 17 tries in 2 weeks or something like that. It was just mind-boggling.
And many decades from now, there will be people saying, I was there on that famous day.
You're all about storytelling. That capture tells such a story. for you to now have your own place in history as a permanent reminder. I mean, it's wild.
And Martin Chariots trying to make some space. Now then, Martin Chariots, he's got Alan Tate to beat on the outside. And shoot, he's going to go the full length. That is one sensational try. That must rank amongst the finest ever seen on this ground. And this man, Martin Chariots, the world's most lethal try scorer.
I'm thinking I've got a chance to make history here if I go and do something, and I go out and score the try that I scored. And that's why I went to my knees and put my head in my hands. I've never done that celebration before that day. I've never done that celebration after. That's a moment in time. And now there's a statue of me in that pose. Pff, it blows my mind. If you can make the hairs on the back of your own neck stand up, you know, that's gonna make a good story, because that's what people like. They like a good story. I always said that careers can be forgotten, but moments last forever.
A month ago, people were saying he was out of form. Well, there's his answer.
The birth of the Super League, you signed with the London Broncos.
It took a lot to get me to leave Wigan, but it was the dawn of professional rugby union and Richard Branson. That's a lot to get you to leave a club.
The rugby revolution continues. After a century of hostility between the two codes, Offiah will be bringing them closer than they've ever been. A league player in the summer, he'll be turning out for a union club in the winter.
I was the first rugby player ever to play a professional game of rugby league and rugby union in the same weekend. I got my MBE in the afternoon at Buckingham Palace from Prince Charles, and then I flew up in a helicopter, played for London Broncos against Warrington, and then on the Saturday, I played for Bedford against Rotherham, and then went and had a party.
Of the most excellent order.
That was an incredible weekend.
Sadly, when you were at the London Broncos, your dad was tragically killed.
I remember he came to watch me in the 1995. The only game he'd ever came to watch was me in the 1995 World Cup final. And then 4 years later, he was sadly murdered in Nigeria. It was a tough time, but life is not just going to be sweetness and light. You're going to have times of great joy, but there's going to be times of sadness, and that's the part of life that you have to accept. But, you know, rather than think about the fact that I've lost my mother, I lost my father, I thought, wow, I had these great people in my life.
Now that your boys are on their own journey in a professional sport, do you hear some of those same lessons being passed on?
Absolutely. Like I tell them, I say to them, you're going to say one of two things to me when you're an adult. I wish I listened to you, or I'm glad I listened to you.
It's really powerful when you think about that.
And it's not about succeeding and failing, it's just about the journey. You know, once you've got to the top, it's like, well, it's over now. It's like, okay, you're a millionaire, you've scored 1 million tries, you've done this, you've done that. That's not the joy. It's about remembering the times when I was trying to get round ET.
Here goes Chariots again, and look at the pace. Overcomes Eddinghausen. Can he stop him again? Yes, he does.
Offiah, Eddinghausen and the great chase. He will not get him tonight.
Or the time when we played the Brisbane Broncos, that time in '94, and it was one of the greatest games I've ever played in.
And Martin Chariots rejoices.
That is life.
The tries are one thing, then that's a big part of your story, but the style of you is the other. The tightness of the shorts, was this a scientific thing? Was it an aerodynamic thing?
I love it. Again, it's just part of the story. I imagine this, and like, I'm Nathan Hindmarsh, I've never met the guy before, but I felt like I knew him. I felt like he, and when I met Maddie Johns and Fletch, because I used to love so much, I feel like, you know them, and when they come up to me and they say, what about the shorts? So I thought, if I wear smaller shorts, you know, they're not gonna flap around. But then it became a bit of a thing, like most things, it became a trademark. There used to be this little club of girls that used to stand in the corner, because I used to have just a superstitious thing that I used to just like touch the tongues of my boots every time I scored a try. And then they all used to like, oh, just cheer, because obviously I was in these tight shorts. Oh. touching my toes.
So you're bending over?
Bending over. So I couldn't not do it then because like they'll all be there, go, oh.
Footy and a show. You've had some big moments. There's a more bizarre moment in your career. The drop goal or the field goal that you kick. Was it sus?
No, that's what everyone keeps thinking.
What feels incorrect.
We're playing against Bradford, and this was the time when Bradford were the dominant team in Super League. I mean, not a very good Salford team, but we were doing all right. I think after about 15 minutes, it's 0-0 in this game. I don't know what made me do it. So I literally picked the ball up from dummy half, take a couple of steps out, and boot a drop goal over.
Offiah now trying a drop goal, Martin Offiah. Got the first point of the match. Well, that is a rarity.
So everyone is just like, what? Except goes, what's happening there? And it turns out we got beat by 80 points to 1 or something, like 83 points to 1. So everyone's thinking, this is a bit sus. But no, I love it again. It's a great story, isn't it?
Offiah comes into the action, and you don't stop Martin Offiah. Away he goes. Thank you very much, he says.
Oh, to Offiah. Now then, Offiah's over. Shot in there like a bullet. Offiah.
Well, there wouldn't be anyone else, would it?
Martin, you're a star on and off the field. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Thanks.